In our ever-expanding anime world, it feels like you cannot turn a corner without seeing a story about a young man in a fantasy world, often with a title as long as this sentence. Where have they all come from, and why does this otherworldly river never seems to run dry? And why is Isekai anime so popular, and why now? If you feel like you are suddenly seeing way more Isekai anime than usual, you are not wrong. There's a reason for this recent boom, and it's both charming and cynical in equal measure. Let's first see where it all started. Anime and video game fans may already be familiar with this fairy tale which I'm gonna tell you now, as it is often referenced in those mediums. The fairy tale is about a fisherman who rescues a turtle from harm. As a reward, the turtle takes the fisherman to a dragon palace under the ocean, where he meets a princess named as Otohime. What he thought was only several days turns out to be more than 100 years. This old folk tale was adapted in an anime in 1918. Making it one of the oldest anime out there. In terms of dating the earliest known isekai anime, Urashima Taro makes a strong case for itself. The Dragon Palace is the fantastical world and the fisherman is the protagonist that audience can connect to. This anime was only the beginning though, as the isekai genre would continue to develop through the 80s, 90s, 2000s and 2010s. Anime did not come into international lens until the late 80s and 90s, and plenty of isekai stories were among them. These including Mashin Hiro Wataru, El Hazard, NG Night Ramune and 40, as well as Fushigi Yugi. Part of what made this genre so successful is that they could have all kinds of different target audiences. While both were isekais, Mashin Hiro Wataru was targeted for more towards little boys, while Fushigi Yugi target audience was older girls. The genre had very little in terms of limitations, with the new worlds ranging from historic China to magical realms with mechs and dragons. The plot of these anime often followed a chosen one narrative, with the new world quickly having high expectations of its oddly dressed visitors and throwing them into fantastical situations that they have to overcome. This would force the protagonist to grow up and quickly adapt to this new environment, making many isekai anime of this era serve as coming-of-age stories. At the time, the genre had a perfected storytelling formula. However, it was not yet at its peak of popularity. What really put isekai on the international consciousness was Hayao Miyazaki's 2002 movie Spirited Away. Like other isekai before it, Spirited Away placed a young protagonist in a fantastical world that she is forced to adapt to. To this day, it is known as one of the best isekai anime out there, having won many awards and is beloved by people of all ages and backgrounds. The movie was released in 2001 in Japan and really pulled the isekai genre out of any international obscurity. True to isekai's folkloric roots, Spirited Away also had many folk motifs such as the kami creatures who came to the bathhouse, the idea of purifying the body through water, and the fact that river could have a spirit. Other critically acclaimed anime isekai films came out and solidified the popular genre at the time, such as The Boy and the Beast and The Cat Returns. Inuyasha was also another folkloric isekai anime that captured the heart of international audience in the 2000s. It also popularized the recurring theme of isekai anime, which is reincarnation. Reincarnation in isekai anime often tied the protagonist to a fantastical world in a significant way. For example, Kagome had initially only traveled to feudal Japan, but eventually finds out that she is the reincarnation of Inuyasha's dead lover Kikyo. This instant was far from the first or the last use of reincarnation in an isekai narrative, but it was the one that introduced many international audiences to the idea of reincarnation playing such a prominent role. The 2000s and 2010s also popularized isekai stories that take their protagonists to a virtual world. The Hack franchise did this, and Sword Art Online also did the same by putting their protagonists in a high-stakes virtual MMORPG game. These stories were the sort that contained fewer Japanese folk motifs and strived to connect to audience that loved and understood video games worlds and particularly RPGs. At this point, isekai got so popular that the genre actually had to face backlash from critics and anime fans. By 2016, isekai got so popular that a Japanese short story contest sponsored by Bungaku Free Market and Shousetsuka Naro actually banned isekai stories from their entries. Many felt that the genre has overcrowded the manga and the anime market, and in 2017, publisher Kadokawa also banned isekai stories in their novel contest. If we talk about any uniqueness of all the isekai animes that are present right now, then it all comes down to only few things. Like many isekai protagonists always became heroes, so new writers often had to look for more creative things to reincarnate them as. Some are turned into common isekai monsters like slimes and spiders and skeleton knights. There are even stories that makes the main character into a villain of the series, including Overlord and Hamefura. So many different archetypes have been used that some writers have had to resort to making their characters into inanimate objects like a sword or an onsen. It's hard to imagine an isekai role that the main character hasn't been reincarnated into. The isekai setting can also get especially generic. These worlds are usually like something out of Lord of the Rings or Arthurian legends. They also take a lot of cues from JRPGs like Dragon Quest. Since these settings are ideal for action and adventure, the heroes and their party members generally go on quests, slay monsters, discover rare treasures, battle the demon lord and his armies, and save the kingdom. This is the basic premise of far too many isekai animes nowadays. It has become so bad that some series have to announce their whole plot into their own title. But still there are so many isekai animes coming out every year. Ultimately, it is because they have proved to be reliable success, and not just when it comes to anime. The rate at which we consume media, both written and visual, is a crucial part of isekai's anime success. The genre took off initially in Japan thanks to web novels, which themselves spiked in early 2000s. Funnily enough, many industry people in Japan are reporting much of this growth is outside of Japan. The editor of In Another World with My Smartphone tweeted that their light novel series was now selling better abroad than domestically, as digital consumption of books is becoming more popular in the West. Isekai novels may be able to experience a growth spurt similar to as seen in Japan a decade or two ago. The biggest area of potential growth for anime is abroad though. At the same time, many content organizations in the West, notably Netflix and Disney, are looking to produce more anime content. The fact that isekai is being seen as a genre with high growth potential, not just in Japan but across the world, it will provide a huge incentive to increase the amount of content in this area. According to Crunchyroll, 20% of their series simulcasted in 2021 were classified as isekai anime. That means out of 4 anime released in 2021, 1 anime is isekai. It might not surprise you to also hear that they were involved in ensuring the Rising of the Shield Hero was animated. With business signs pointing to more success in this genre in particular, it's unlikely we'll see a reduction in the numbers of isekai anime being created anytime soon. What are your thoughts about all the isekai animes that are available to us right now? Do you think it is good for this industry? What are your thoughts? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And that's it for today's video guys. If you enjoyed this video, then check out my other 2 videos over here. And also don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I post daily anime content on this YouTube channel. And that's it, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.